What's going on, sports fans? I'm Snickers. He's Meat Snack. We're the Snick Snack Sports, bringing you the Mansfield Penn State Fantasy Football League podcast. Ready for a great week 2 in fantasy football. How are you doing today, Nate?
I'm doing excellent. How are you doing, Nick?
Doing very well today. Very excited for this week of football.
I am as well. And what we've got ahead of us looking into today, we got a bit of a weekly recap going on first, talking about some upsets, some fantasy news. We got a guest on the show, and we'll be looking forward to next week. We're making our bet, and it's going to be some good stuff. To get started, let's talk about the week in review. So here we go. So Nick, let's look behind at what happened last week. And as we can see here on the matchups presented by ESPN, we have all of the recaps here. Let's start with the recap between me and Matt, which had a bit of a shootout last week with the number 2 and 3 scorers in last week's matchup. This one hurt me. I came out on the bottom here. A lot of big performers in this game. Jalen Hurts showed that he was worth the 6th-round draft pick to me. But on the other side, Cooper Kupp and Jamar Chase dominated, as we all worried that his wide receiver core might. Really, it came down to that Monday night game. Cortland Sutton needed 12 points to bring home the victory. He was 3 points away. I was at the edge of my seat, and ultimately, it was tough to watch. And then, Nick, what were you noticing about this matchup between mid-tier Nick and Katie Adams?
Yeah, brother, sister, Nick and Katie here. I did notice that I think Travis Kelce on the Nick Adams side did get a very high score. Obviously, the Chiefs were scoring 44 points that week. He doubled up with Travis Kelce and CEH. But overall, I mean, his team didn't look that great. He did start J.K. Dobbins, which, rookie champ mistake. But then on the other side, Katie did have Pat Mahomes. She did have Aaron Jones did all right. Antonio Gibson did surprisingly well for not a very good running back. But yeah, I'm not too surprised that looks like the better scored team won here.
Yeah, no, I was surprised because Nick Adams did the thing he basically the draft all over again as starting a injured player. His team didn't look too strong when the game wasn't actually even very close. Maybe an unlucky week for Katie. Then we have Kyle and Carson. Kyle came out on top here. Another one that wasn't too close, although both teams performed well above that 110-point mark that I'm always looking to hit. Really what it came down to is that the Stephon Diggs, Josh Allen stack on Kyle's side was dominant.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. I think it looks like Damien needs to get a little bit more fierce, but yeah, the Carson's team's looking like a bunch of slightly older, slightly more washed up guys. I mean, that are still obviously very talented, but we'll see how Carson does the rest of the couple weeks here.
I'm playing against him this week, and I have to say I'm not excited about it because some of these guys have good matchups, which we'll talk more about later. And then we have the matchup between Katie and Ducky, and we can see that was a bit of a blowout.
Yeah, no, Shane really took this one over. Even though he started Matt Stafford throwing 4 picks, he still had Saquon, who was the best running back last week. He had A.J. Brown, who was one of the best receivers last week. He had Robert Tonyan, the starter, to one of my favorite tight ends, Josiah DeGuara. And then on the Chris Olave side, Ducky did not start Chris Olave, which is interesting. But he did have a couple young guys. He should be able to bounce back and get some more points this week, especially Justin Fields going to Green Bay against that secondary last week. It's like he should have a pretty good week.
Yeah, no, the guys really did not come through to him, made his team look pretty rough, but I do think there's brighter days ahead, perhaps, for the pave the way for Chris Olave team. And then we had another rough week for Kenny playing against Kyler here. 67 might be the lowest score I've ever seen in week 1. No one's on bye yet.
Yeah, look at that. Mark Andrews, 7 points. Allen Robinson, 1 point. It's not very great. I mean, obviously your quarterback probably should be your highest scoring player, but no one over 20 really hurts him there. And Kyler basically got a bye there, despite I noticed most of his team lost last week. But
Yeah, no one else over 10. My goodness, besides Kirk Cousins. And meanwhile, Justin Jefferson had I think he was wide receiver one, had a huge week, made this a no doubter. Kyler dominated despite having the Packers score 0, Kyle Pitts scoring 2. I think his team could look pretty fierce going forward. And then last we had your matchup against
yeah, did sneak out the win here. I was talking to John about it. He was pretty surprised that he didn't win. Then I reminded them that he's never beat me in this league before and probably never will, but we'll see. Obviously, had Jonathan Taylor, had Elijah Mitchell, we'll talk about in a second, who went down. But yeah, receiver Mike Evans, Brandon Cooks, Dolphins defense did very well against our New England Patriots, unfortunately. But John's team did look pretty good with Mike Pittman, James Conner, Amon-Ra St. Brown all scoring pretty well.
Yeah, his team could be decent this year if he thinks to keep setting his lineup. I was impressed. He actually did put in some waiver claims, as we'll see coming up.
Yeah.
All right. So next up, we want to talk a little bit about some fantasy news. There's a lot of, well, actually, as weeks go, there could have been worse. There were a couple of major injuries, a couple of minor injuries. The biggest one, of course, Dak Prescott broke his thumb, will be out, I'm hearing 8 weeks perhaps.
Yeah, I'm hearing 6 to 8 weeks. That's very unfortunate for Dak. I'm a huge Dak supporter. How about them Cowboys? But we'll see how he comes back. Cooper Rush did have that one very good game last year against Minnesota, if you remember. So not that he's a very good fantasy option. We'll see how the rest of the Cowboys receivers and running backs fare.
Right, it could impact all of them. I personally am thinking those wide receivers are pretty useless until that time. The other big one, Elijah Mitchell, Nick, your team, his knee, he might be out for about the same amount of time, 8 weeks, if I'm hearing.
Yeah, that hurts. He was my keeper. Thinking that I could just go with him and Jonathan Taylor as my running backs, and unfortunately, you did pick him up off of waivers, Jeff Wilson Jr. That is. You want to talk about that a little bit? Why you put in so much money?
We'll be talking about that coming up. Don't you worry. I have a very good answer for everyone wondering out there why anyone would spend that much. Now, some more minor injuries. Keenan Allen did miss this week with a hamstring. His game already happened. I hear he might be back out there next week. Mac Jones did hurt his back. I think he's not going to miss any time. Najee, everyone's worried about that foot. I was hearing people picking up his backup. It doesn't look like he's even going to have to miss time, so that backup may be pretty useless at this point. Chris Godwin will be missing this week with a hamstring, but luckily that didn't look too serious. And of course, everyone was wondering, Brandon Bolden, how's he going to be doing? And it looks like, I actually have not checked on his status, but he does have a hamstring. He's not drafted right now, not on a team, but could be a guy to watch.
Yeah, I mean, you never know what's going to happen in Las Vegas, right?
That's right. I'm impressed you know what team he's actually on. Now let's take a quick look at the standings here. Of course, it's pretty simple at this point. We have a bunch of 1-0s, a bunch of 0-1s. And so we have Shane, Matt, Kyle, Nick, Kyler, and Nick Adams all at 1-0. I do love that they're already starting to estimate playoff percentages. They do not have a lot of faith in Ducky's team. 22% chance after week 1. Ouch.
Ouch.
Meanwhile, they still seem to be saying that Kyle at 66% is the best team on the board. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm excited for Kyle this year.
He was my team to watch last week. So, yeah, I think we can agree on that. So now in our let's go look ahead to this week. We've already had the Thursday night game. Why don't you tell us about that, Nick?
Yeah, I mean, that was a pretty exciting game to watch. Mike Williams obviously went off after he had basically nothing last week. I think he had 2 receptions week 1. I think he got probably 8 receptions for over 100 this year and a touchdown. If you saw that very nice touchdown grab in the end zone. Pat Mahomes didn't look great. Obviously, and the Chiefs had a new kicker with Harrison Butker out, and they didn't want to let Justin Reed, their safety, kick another game. So we'll see how that affects people if they want to pick up this new guy, Matt Amendola, off the waivers for kickers. But
Absolutely. Now let's take a look ahead to our, well, I guess we're just calling it looking ahead. And here we are. All right, so in our look ahead, we have our guest, which we will have on in just a moment. We have our matchups of the week. We're going to be making our bet. We'll talk about waivers. I'll defend myself. And we'll talk a little bit about the NFL before we let you go for the week.
all right, sounds good. Let's get Shane Heafy on the podcast.
That's right. Here we go, Shane. All right. Please welcome to the show, enemy of the show, Shane Roy. Shane, how you doing today?
Feeling good. It's great to be here. I like this this music for me. A little foreboding.
I think everyone here has been dreading your appearance, but we did indeed invite you because you were the high scorer on the week. And despite that, as we just saw, getting no respect from ESPN.
Yeah, that's fine with me. I usually don't get too much respect on those projections from Yahoo and ESPN. I've won plenty of times in these leagues, so
yeah, one of those, not like the other fantasy player types. Am I right? The hipster fantasy player.
The hipster fantasy player.
Right.
I'm not too familiar with the hipster fantasy player.
All the takes that no one else is seeing, right?
Yeah, I guess so. You know, the contrarian pick, I suppose.
That's what I was going for.
Yeah.
So let's take a look here at your matchup. The first thing I want to do is invite you to defend your matchup this week. I believe you're playing Katie. Here we are. Tell us why you're going to win this game.
She's already had two people go and underperform, as is usual with Katie's team. Mahomes and Eckler had decent games, but to put me in ahead of projections here. And then, I mean, those really are her two best players. After that, we got Antonio Gibson, who wasn't even supposed to be on the team this year until the unfortunate incident with the other running back, T. Higgins, Chase Claypool. I'm not too afraid of them. Aaron Jones is probably your best player there, but the Green Bay offense was kind of a mess week one. If that continues, then this will be an easy victory for me. I can sleep soundly by probably 115 on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, good news. I did see Brian Robinson working out, the Commanders running back that got shot in the leg. He's back in the field already. He's not probably going to play for a while, but that's always good news.
Yeah, that's good.
Absolutely. I mean, Antonio Gibson did impress last week. He was a lot more involved with his backup outs than we would have expected, and people are already changing their tune on him. So I don't know if I'd sleep on him quite yet. ESPN certainly hasn't. So I already have him ranked above Aaron Jones. But on the same side of things, or the other side of things, Michael Thomas also performed, I would say, better than we would expect. So I hate to say it, but I do like how your team is looking at this point in the season. I mean, Saquon actually looks like he might be a real NFL player again. AJ Brown is the favorite. So, yeah, we'll have to see. I do like your team to win this week, but probably last week of the season, I'd guess.
You would guess. And you also have to watch out for Antonio Gibson going up against Detroit. No kneecaps are safe there.
It's true.
The Motor City.
Now here, me and Nick also have our matchups of the week to present. I personally will be watching the DC Redskins playing the third QB, John's team. Very close projections. We have basically 109 to 109. And looking at John's team, nothing too impressive here. A lot of middling guys. Najee's coming off of an injury. I don't know if I want him. James Conner, I don't think he had a great week. But this team performed last week and stuck in there with you, Snickers. Despite ultimately coming away with a loss, this might be one of John's stronger teams yet. On the other side, Kyler already had Juju do a bit of a dud. The Arizona Cardinals not looking like a strong team. We'll see if Kyler can actually get things going this week. The Marquise Kyler stack, that could be a good one going forward. It also could be one of the bigger disappointing stacks this year. But he has Justin Jefferson, and no one's safe when that guy can score 40 points in a given game, it feels like.
Absolutely. I also did see a good workout video of Matt Gay, the kicker. He's been putting on some pounds there.
And so tell us about your matchup of the week, Snickers.
Yeah, my matchup of the week is between the Fufu Cuddly Poops and mid-tier Nick. Despite Nick Adams winning last year and being pretty good the year before that, he really hadn't proven himself too much. And Kyle, despite being in the league for a long time and always having pretty good teams, has not proven himself too much yet either. They're both 1-0 going to week 2. And I'm very excited to see what they can bring. Obviously, Kyle, the Fufu Cuddly Poops, has the Josh Allen Steph Diggs stack, which is going to be pretty helpful all year round. Nick Adams has Christian McCaffrey. He has Travis Kelce, always going to do well. He's still has J.K. Dobbins in his lineup. Not 100% sure if he's going to be very effective this week or not, but we'll see. I'm pretty excited to see exactly how this is going to turn out. Right now, Kyle is projected to do pretty well comparably, but
that's true. But we know that at any moment, Nick Adams could switch between any of his 3 quarterbacks, Aaron Rodgers and Carson Wentz waiting in the wings. So always going to be a bit of a surprise there on who comes out to play, as long as he holds on to all 3 guys.
Yeah.
All right. And now we have, for the first time on our show, the bets that we've made between us. We talked about a little bit, and I'm getting a lot of flack on the group me about my pickup of Jeff Wilson on the San Francisco 49ers. Some people think I overspent. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I'm here to lay my flag in Jeff Wilson and say that he's going to be a top 15 running back this week.
And I'm here to lay my flag and say he's not going to be a top 15 running back this week. I think he's going to be about number 20, 21, somewhere around there. And that I'm going to get a point in our season record against Nate here.
I'll say, even if he is like 2021 there, I would still think that he was worth the 43 every cent. What do you think, Shane?
Yeah, I put in a pretty decent bid for Jeff Wilson. Just the who's ever the lead back in the Kyle Shanahan offense usually does pretty well. You know, we saw it the last couple of years with, you know, random people like Jermichael Hasty and whoever else he threw in there could put on a pretty good performance. So if Jeff Wilson is the lead back going there for the next few weeks, then it's certainly worth the money. You know, normally in these fab leagues, you want to go, you know, hard early because those are the real home runs you can hit. Getting a guy like Jeff Wilson who can play half the year, you know, as a number 1 running back or even a high end number 2.
That's right. You don't get anything for having money left over at the end of the year either. Some people are real conservative at the end of the year. They still have like $80 in the bank. That doesn't transfer to next year. So put it on your calendars. Jeff Wilson, top 15. You'll be seeing me with a point next week, with Snickers to be humiliated in some way, assuredly, going forward. But let's actually take a close look at those waivers. Now that we have this new system, we have ESPN has very kindly set up a summary for us. So we can see here that, yes, Jeff Wilson, I did spend $43 on him. And no one else spent anywhere near that much money, which was, of course, not what I wanted. But so, I mean, we had Snickers. You put a $21 bid.
I did put in $21. I thought I would absolutely get him. I thought the highest bid was going to be about $10 for him.
I mean, we had a number of people thinking similar to you. John put in 20. Shane, you put in 17. Ducky put in 15. But here's me defending myself. I've played in a number of leagues with Fab at this point, and many of you are new to it. I actually have another league going on where Jeff Wilson went for $66. I did not get him in that league. And like Shane, like you were saying, if I have a starting running back on a running happy team, I want him for the first 8 weeks. I'm happy to spend up to get him. It's worked in the past. You know, last year, Snickers, you would have been very happy, I think, to maybe spend all of your fab if you knew that you were going to get the season Elijah Mitchell had or that Cordell Patterson had. So
that's very true. I probably would have spent $50 on each of them if I was able to look back on it.
Now, I don't think that Jeff Wilson's going to have that kind of Cordell Patterson season, but if I get 8 weeks of running back 2 production, that's worth $43 to me. A lot of the times you're getting on these guys that maybe 50% chance you drop in the next week. So
I
The only error I made was not realizing everyone else was to be so conservative with their money. Now we have another overspend here for Ducky, and I think he's probably regretting this one already. Looking back at last week, $10 on Isaiah Pacheco. I thought you had him on your team, Shane, but you must have dropped him.
I think I did drop him at the beginning of the year for the George Kittle injury. That was who had to be cut bait with.
I see. And yeah, he already was totally uninvolved in last night's game, and I've heard a lot of people are going to be dropping him this week, so that $10 may not have been very well spent.
Yeah, the Isaiah Pacheco pickup did confuse me a little bit as well. I mean, they gave him Tyreek Hill's number 10, which is a little strange for a running back, and he drops Christian Watson, the tiny giraffe, who, despite dropping the 75-yard touchdown last week, is projected to be pretty good this year in the Aaron Rodgers offense. So we'll see how that feels next week for Chris Olave there.
As far as I'm aware, I think he's still out there, Christian Watson. I don't think anyone has claimed him. And so that could be an interesting pickup next week. We'll see. There was also Curtis Samuel was another competitive one. I was surprised to see John actually going hard to the paint for him, getting it for $10. I think that's actually a pretty good deal. I would have certainly paid that had I had not already been investing so heavily into Jeff Wilson over here. Looked like Matt has some interest in Hilliard. He might have had one of those anomalous weeks. I think he did pretty well, maybe 2 touchdowns, but not otherwise super involved. And mid-tier Nick went for he dropped Dak to pick up another third quarterback. That was an interesting decision. And then I saw Snickers that you also picked up my JD McKissick, who I dropped for $4.
I did. After losing Elijah Mitchell, I didn't have any running back two other than Khalil Herbert, who did catch a touchdown last week, but I can't count on that every week. So JD McKissick was the best available at the time. I hope $4 probably is not going to come back to bite me. So
probably won't, although it always hurts when you see that no one else betted them at all. You put in more than a $1 bet, but got to play it safe when it's your guy. Let's see, what do we have next? We usually would talk about trade analysis. I know trades aren't super common in our league. I know Snickers and I were both talking before the show. We sent out trades to Ducky, who rejected us both. So Shane, you can tell us what you think of these trades. I was offering to send Ducky the wide receiver 1 for the Saints, Jarvis Landry. In return, he's going to send me CeeDee Lamb, who would be useless for the next 8 weeks without Dak Prescott out. I believe he scored 2 points this week. And I'm thinking I have a deep wide receiver core. I can hold him. Ducky needs the help. His team's a mess. He could use the hot wide receiver 1 right now, but he said no. What do you think of that?
You can make the argument that a wide receiver 1 with a bad quarterback is a good play, because he's going to get fed targets from a quarterback who's just going to be relying on the most talented guy out there. A little bit of the Ewing theory type of thing, throwing the ball to Calvin Johnson all the time. Then when Calvin Johnson leaves, Matt Stafford gets a little bit better. It's kind of a security blanket just thrown to the wide receiver 1. So I'm fine with that rejection. I don't trust Jarvis Landry going forward to do a whole lot. He's never caught a lot of touchdown passes in his career. I don't think he's going to get a huge volume in that offense with all the different weapons they have.
You're not wrong.
He has thrown more touchdown passes than CeeDee Lamb so far, though. So you always got to keep that in mind.
And I don't totally disagree with you, Shane, but I don't think CeeDee Lamb has proved himself to be that number 1 guy. I mean, he's number 1 on that team with who they have right now, but I don't think he's like that Calvin Johnson type target.
Well, that's true. He's certainly not at that level, but who else are they going to throw the ball to over there?
Yeah.
Jalen Tolbert.
Well, Michael Gallup around at some point, but obviously not yet. How about you, Snickers? You had a deal as well.
Yeah, I obviously running back needy a little bit. I tried to take Miles Sanders off of Ducky's team for the best rookie wide receiver in the league this year, Drake London. And despite not wanting to really give up the London star, and not really wanting any Eagles running back since LaShawn McCoy, I was willing to put that offer in, and it did get rejected as well.
Any trades from you, Shane, that you were sending out?
I did not. I was pretty happy with my team after week 1, so didn't feel the need to go out and do too much.
Fair enough. Now let's just briefly look ahead into the real NFL at the matchups that you're watching this week. I know I'll be watching the Bucs and the Saints. Something I learned this week, which I was totally surprised about, is that Tom Brady has never beaten the Saints while a member of the Bucs. He is 0-4, despite being on a very successful Bucs team. And I think this could be a pretty close game. The wide receiver room is a bit of a mess over there, but I think Julio Jones is coming back, which I think he's on my team. I'm considering playing him. Chris Godwin might not be back yet, but Mike Evans is going to play. Russell Gage might play. And the Saints were surprisingly a strong offense. They have a lot of pieces this year compared to nobody last year. So how about you, Nick? Who are you looking at this week?
Yeah, this week I'm looking at a number 1 versus number 2 overall quarterback from 2016, Jared Goff against Carson Wentz, the Detroit Lions against the Washington Commanders. Fun facts: this is the first game in 24 weeks that the Lions have been favored. They're favored by about 1.5 this week against the Commanders at home. And I think it's going to be pretty fun to watching Carson Wentz, who will never give up on a play, against Motor City Dan Campbell, who's never going to give up on anything. So it'll be pretty exciting to watch how this game unfolds here.
I know you're always one for a narrative, Nick. And how about you, Shane? Who are you watching this week?
I guess an interesting one is an underperformer and overperformer from last week, Seattle at San Fran. Seattle is projected to be one of the worst teams in the league. They come out with a pretty surprising victory against Denver. And, San Fran kind of laid an egg last week against one of the worst teams in the league. So now they're going against each other, and maybe find out a little bit more about these teams and what they really are.
That's true. It was a mess last week. I mean, I saw some people were playing in, so that could have been part of the story. Who knows?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those weather games are always a little tough to take any narratives from.
For sure. But that's all we've got for you this week. Remember, Joe Wilson will be top 15 running back. You can make that a sure thing. Thank you for joining us, Shane. And we will be back with you next week, probably posting next Saturday morning. Good luck, everyone. And thanks for joining us.
Peace out.